The first thing we need is a hat brush. I got this one from Amazon. It's made with horsehair. That's important. It cost me $10. We also need a paintbrush. This is an old paintbrush I've had for quite some time, a small container, and some Fuller's Earth. I have 3 different colors here. I got this from a company on Etsy called Trooperbay. Today, we're just going to be using the tan, or the very light color. And of course, we need a hat. This is my fedora made by Brian Lalonde of Screen Capped Hats. I asked him for a Raiders hat, specifically something that looked like from the idol grab scene. He did a really good job. This is custom made to fit my hat. It's made from rabbit felt. The ones in the film were made from rabbit felt, and it's a little bit more affordable than beaver felt. I highly recommend Screen Capped Hats and Brian Lalonde. I love this hat. It is so awesome. The next thing we need is some reference images. Here we see the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you see that the hat in the beginning doesn't have very much weathering. In fact, if you look at this idol grab scene, there's very little weathering on it. There's just a little bit. As we move on through the film here in the Ravenwood Bar, there's still not much. But as we get into the streets of Cairo, you see there's a lot of dust on the hat. You can see all the weathering gets very heavy. Of course, it's built up over the course of the film, and quite a bit there in that dusty region. And here we have a shot from the truck chase. You can see there's a lot of weathering. If we lighten up the image, you can see quite a bit of weathering. So I'm looking for something similar, somewhere in the middle of those 3. First thing we're going to do is pour a little bit of Fuller's Earth into our small container. And we're going to be using this almost like painting. We dip our brush into the Fuller's Earth, just get a little bit on the edge there. And we're literally going to paint dust onto the hat. And some of it will fleck off like that, and that's really not a big deal. The first step is we're going to go around the band. We're going to go around the band here with just dabbing it on there. I'm patting it on there. I'm not brushing it like with strokes. I'm more just dabbing it, patting it on there, just tapping it on. So we're going to go all the way around the band here on the top. Again, just patting it on there. And then we're going to do the same thing at the bottom. So with the top of the band and also at the bottom of the band. And we're just tapping it on there. Just painting with dust. And we're going to go all the way around the bottom of the band, just like we did the top. Now, I've never weathered an Indiana Jones hat before, but I have weathered other costumes. And the fact that I'm just a noob and I've never done this before, making this video and showing you this technique, hopefully it will give you some confidence if you've never done this before either. Because, you know, we pay a lot of money for these authentic Raiders hats, or Indiana Jones hats, I should say, depending on what film you like and what hat you have. But you spend a lot of money. They're not cheap, and you don't want to ruin them. But hopefully in this video you can see that if I can do it, then you can do it as well. So here what I'm doing with both sides of the pinch, I am just tapping it in there. I'm not dabbing it. I'm just loading up the brush with Fuller's Earth, and then I'm tapping it into those sides of the pinch on both sides. Now I want to put a little bit more on the brim. And I'm just tapping it on there. We're tapping the brush and flaking it or floating it or snowing it like a snow globe. letting it fall onto the brim. Try to make it look like it occurred naturally, like somehow dust was in the air in whatever environment you're in, and it just kind of collects on the hat. In a couple of the images I've seen of the Raiders hat, there's these marks on both sides of the dent at the top of the hat. So I put those on there just kind of randomly. And now I'm going to pat some more or drop some more, sprinkle some more Fuller's Earth in the dent. Seems like that's where dust would collect. And then also the back of the brim. And then I'm painting on the sweat stains, but you can't see it because my thumb's in the way. And all I'm doing is making little circles, like D-shaped half circles on the side of the band. And when I was filming this, I didn't realize the brim was in the way. But we'll see, I get a better look of it in just a little bit. The one thing to keep in mind is once you get this Fuller's Earth on the band itself, it's a little bit harder to get off than the rest of the hat. So you want to be mindful of that. Here we go. We've got it covered with Fuller's Earth, and there you can see the sweat stains a little bit better. All right, so we're done. Thanks for watching. Just kidding. This is just the very beginning. This is the foundation. Now we're going to pull out our trusty hat brush, and then you will see the magic of how this all comes together. What we're going to do is we're going to take that brush and we're going to start blending in all of the Fuller's Earth that we've sprinkled on and painted onto our hat. And that's what I'm doing here. What I want to do is I want to soften all the hard edges, and I want to blend in all the sprinkled dust, the sprinkled earth on there, so it looks like it's really more natural and that I didn't just blob it on there. This is quite a process, but overall, I think the entire hat probably only took me about 10-15 minutes to do at the most. It took a lot longer to film it because I had to move the camera around and stuff, but it really doesn't take very long at all to do this. And it's fun. So you see how now, as I'm brushing with this hat brush, I'm blending in all this dirt, all this Fuller's Earth, and softening all those edges, including the sweat stains on the band. And now you can see it's a lot more uniform. It's blended in quite a bit more. And I'm pushing in the dent a little bit because I popped it out a little bit as I was brushing. But here I'm just looking around the hat and looking at different areas and seeing what else I need to do and adding some touch-ups. Now it's really starting to look like a Raiders hat. I'm not trying to replicate any specific scene. I'm just trying to replicate the overall look. I want, when I look at it, I want to think, oh man, that's a Raiders hat. I want when other people look at it, they think the same thing, immediately recognize, oh man, that's Indiana Jones' hat from Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's kind of what I'm going for, rather than getting super specific with a specific scene. So I wanted a little bit more in the dent, so I'm just tapping some more on there. And then also wanted those spots to show up a little bit better. So as I was saying earlier, we spend all this money on these hats, and I got the rabbit felt one because one, it was a little bit more affordable, and they used rabbit in the first film at least, and so I kind of wanted to go with that. But as you can see, It's a real easy process, and if you mess up, all you have to do is brush a little bit harder with that hat brush, and you can literally take off literally all of that fool's earth. See, I took off a lot of it on that band there in the front, so I'm just adding some more, doing another layer. Notice I wanted a little bit more above that band on the left side, so just adding some more. Once again, this is the first time I've ever weathered an Indiana Jones style hat. And I have to tell you, it's easy, it's fun, and if I can do it, you can definitely do it. So here we are with the finished hat. My weathered Raiders hat. Let's look at the before. So here's our hat before we started doing the weathering. And now let's look at the after. Here we are after doing the weathering. And the cool thing is I can always go back in and touch it up. I can always take my hat brush and clean it up if I want to. And if I need more weathering, I could always add more just by following the same process shown earlier in this video. And of course, I need to try it on. So here's what it looks like on me. I have to say, I couldn't be more pleased with the way it turned out. Very, very happy with this hat.